Is it hard to take a step backwards, or is it better to continue as you are? Um, People don't like to admit defeat or failure. And I think sometimes in marketing, if you need to take a step backwards, somebody somewhere has to say, I got that wrong. But I liken taking a step back in marketing to pruning flowers or garden bushes at the right time of year. And I know nothing about gardening. I personally dislike it. However, I know that if you don't prune things like rose bushes and cut out all the growth, what you end up with is you end up with a rambling mess. Whereas if you prune something and you cut back hard at winter time, the next year you can end up with something that's bigger, better, fuller, and contains more flowers or fruit or other bits. And I think the same applies to marketing and businesses per se. That if you don't take significant steps to prune and cut back and take a step backwards and regroup and rethink, then continuing going forward is you're being pushed forward by the weight of what's behind you. You know, all those, as we talked about, telemarketers that could sit in a call centre waiting for people to call, but because you're not providing them, they're pushing you to provide more and more people to be called. When the reality is actually you don't need the call centre anymore. You can deal with 90% of that using the web or new technology. So unless businesses take steps backward, then they're doomed to repeat the history. And in fact, the history becomes more and more of a pressure going forward because the history builds up behind you. It's very much akin to farmers and land, that having had 7 generations farming these fields, the son feels obliged to keep on farming, when in reality maybe it was time to give up farming and do something else with the capital that's invested in the farm. And I think the same again can be applied to the business world, that unless we're prepared to take a step backwards, unless we're prepared to say no more marketing for a period of time whilst we re-evaluate all of the programs, we can some programs, we change some, we develop new ones and test them, because everything is about testing, discovering new things that work for us. Unless we're prepared to do that, then we're always going to repeat the mistakes that we've had in the past. And some of those mistakes are quite big. In the direct marketing industry world, we have bombarded people, so much so that they hate is probably too strong a word, but I would suggest that Joe Public despises us. We are the cause of work. We are the cause of problems for them on a day-to-day basis. They think they've won a prize draw and we haven't. We're seen as con merchants because we've bombarded everybody with inappropriate messages to try and elicit a response that wasn't forthcoming naturally. I think what we're doing is we're trying to push people to buy from us, as opposed to encouraging them and enticing them. And I think a more enticing methodology and encouragement would be significantly better. As for the future, we've got a whole host of tools and products that can help people look at how they can change their marketing. At Blue Sheep, we have a product which we call a money map, which allows people to segment their customers into companies customers they should treasure and those they should avoid. And if you can do that, you could maybe develop different marketing strategies for each of those segments that could be totally different from what you're doing at the moment. But if you don't stop and think about it, if you don't come back from what you're doing, you never give yourself the space to move into new areas. And I think that's critical as we move into marketing in the 21st century.